Hi everyone, so let's now continue with what we've been working on with less economically developed countries, newly industrialized countries and more economically developed countries. Now, we said in that lesson where we were breaking down that terminology and really understanding the characteristics that we're likely to see within those different economies, that we will generally actually cluster economies according to GDP per capita, or the HDI, or the actual level of industry within the economy. So what I've done here is just present this information graphically so that you can really see the differences between these different types of economies. So let's just start with GDP per capita here. These are 2017 figures from the IMF. We can see that we've got Tanzania at $1,034. This is per annum figures, of course. Now with China, that then increases to 8,643. We know in China that there's enormous regional differences between those levels. Some areas of China are almost on par with more economically developed countries in terms of the average per capita income in those areas. Take Shanghai and Beijing as primary examples there, but other areas are very, very poor. So overall though, we can see that the Chinese economy, while it's vast in its scale, is actually not that wealthy when you consider the per capita elements. Then we've got Norway. Well, look at the difference there. Yes, I have picked out, I think it was number 3 in the list here. According to the IMF's figures, $75,000 almost per annum. Really, really rich, wealthy country. Moving on, let's now have a look at the HDI index. Well, Tanzania ranked about 151 out of 188 or so countries at a ranking of 0.531. So 0.531, it's very, very low, really reflecting low levels of life expectancy, low levels of education, and of course that very, very low level of GDP per capita. But don't forget it considers gross national income there per head. So moving across to China, we see a big increase, of course, in the HDI ranking. That then takes the Chinese economy up to 90th on the list from 2016 at 0.738. And then we've got Norway, who's top of the HDI list there, number 1, 0.949. So obviously very, very wealthy. We see that there, but we also will be able to deduce from that that they have excellent education and they have excellent life expectancy at birth. So let's now break this down to sector composition. So how much each sector actually contributes to generating GDP for these economies, how this breaks down. So we can see in Tanzania there's a high number when it comes to agricultural primary produce. When it comes to the industry sector or the secondary sector, 24.2%, and then services at 48%. What's really, really interesting about this is when you then compare that with a LEDC stroke newly industrialized country that is China here, and we can see that they have been able to shift a lot of their primary produce workers and agricultural sector workers into that secondary manufacturing phase, and we see that jump towards industrialization there, of course. So big investment in terms of the capital goods and the ability to actually produce goods with much higher value added in the Chinese economy. But we also see a growing services sector. So here in Tanzania 48% and then China 53% almost, and that is expected to increase as the economy continues to become wealthier and wealthier. Okay, so finally let's now have a look at Norway. Well, we've really got stark differences here, okay? Really interesting considering the differences between Tanzania and Norway here. Look at the fact that we have such a low level with regard to agriculture, 1.12. Then when it comes to the secondary sector, 19.1, and of course a real focus on tertiary services. Okay, so interesting stuff. I hope that really makes it clear to you as to what to expect when it comes to LEDCs, NICs and MEDCs. Okay, great stuff guys, see you next time.